So yeah, what? Let's go. Shoot. How you guys like the movie?
Love your background. What movie is that?
This is all three movies. We had, we had a really talented French artist, Julien Rico Jr., who kind of specializes in, he calls them triptych artwork, where we'd seen them online. He did them for like Back to the Future and Captain America and the Avengers, and we were like, those look awesome. Can you do it for us? And he just completed it this week. So I said, that's my new permanent Zoom Skype background.
That is so cool. But I mean, are you revealing that there's not going to be another Skyline? I mean, triptych, trilogy?
Are you asking if there's truth hitting? Sometimes it's just it's a good way to sell. Look, I mean, the audience tells you whether or not there's going to be more or not. Each one, I just try to make it, as complete as a story as I can, and if we get to make any more, great.
So we are back again with the Skyline saga with another shift in tone, location, and there is something that, I mean, it starts with a pandemic, with an alien pandemic within the alien race. When all this thing happened, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely that kind of, I just even remember some of the stuff we were talking about on set. People weren't that familiar with it, even the word pandemic wasn't what it is now in 2019. So there was definitely a moment of like, oh, that feels a little close, but at the same time, I think our movie is such a escapist kind of fun time that hopefully it takes your brain away from our current 2020 situation.
Yeah, it sucks your brain.
It sucks your brain right out of your head.
I mean, I'm a Skyliner because I really loved the first one, and I was completely. You got me really surprised with Beyond Skyline, because I was expecting everything but a blend of martial arts and science fiction. So for this one, of course, the expectations were skyrocketing, and I'm really disappointed. No, I'm joking. So, I mean, did you conceive Skyline as a trilogy from the beginning? No,
not at all. The first one is just kind of like, hey, I think we can make a movie in our boss's apartment. Like, that's like how simple of a notion it was. And it's just because, towards the end of each movie, people will start to, if the distributors or the financiers like it, they'll start to ask you about a sequel. So it wasn't any like George Lucas grand plan trilogy or anything like that. It was just sort of, even before the first one was released, just in how we'd begun marketing it and stuff, I think we all kind of knew that the second one needed more action, because that was leaning more towards what our strengths were and what, I mean, at least personally, that's what I'm more interested in. So that treatment that ended up becoming Beyond, or very similar to like the blueprint of it, was written before Skyline was out. And then, of course, years go by, you adjust, and it became even more of a standalone thing. It kind of became more of its own beast. But then the same situation sort of happened again. We'd finished Skyline, or Beyond Skyline. It had no wraparound with Lindsay Morgan. It kind of just had them walk off into the sunset, and it was like, all right, it's over. Like, I finished this. And when we tested that version, people said, well, what the hell happens to the little girl? What happens this? It had no sequel setup. and it was one of those things where people say they want closure, but they really don't. They kind of want you to set up something else. They want to know where the story could go. They want to have some sort of like, something that's kind of hooking them. So that was when it came up with the Captain Rose story and the wraparounds. And lucky enough, I'd seen Lindsay in her show, The 100. I'd seen the first season, and I thought she kind of had a Frank Grillo sort of like quality to her, like a very capable, very authentic, tough, smart person. So she agreed to come in and play with us for that day. And then in that day of shooting, I was kind of really getting inspired that like, oh, this could be this whole other thing. This could be a whole other movie. And so again, the financiers and distributors asked, what would a part 3 be? I wrapped her in February 2017, and for Cannes 2017, I had the treatment for Skylin3s, which is pretty close to the movie that you just saw.
And I mean, right now I haven't seen the final.
Oh, okay.
Print. I mean, I have seen the work print that 30th September.
Yes, the second version you sent us.
Yeah. The second version, yes. I was told the first version was hilarious, and we're still with that,
Yes, yeah. I mean, we'll try to do everything we can to like put post-viz in, but it's always a tough watch. It's always tough to try to get feedback from people on these movies because, I'll listen to podcasts and stuff for the Star Wars movies, and they pretty much like finish each cut. Like they will have such great ILM level effects, post-viz effects on like every screening cut. But for us, we'll have to like cut in shots from other movies. We'll have to cut in shots from the other movies. We'll have to be blacking out green screen by hand and stuff. So it's always definitely a challenge to try to kind of make these things viewable while you're editing and while you're kind of moving through the process. But yeah, the latest version, I actually tonight, because what is it, October 23rd, tonight will be the final version. My friend just delivered 4 new hologram shots from the beginning that were, we just wanted to spice up a little bit of some of the assets. So there you go. Final version today.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, you facing the challenges of a small scale science fiction epic, but I mean, that is more challenging for you, but that gives you also a lot more of creative freedom because with Skyline, with the Skyline trilogy.
It's so funny to even hear that.
So far, you went. I mean, you could go wild. You went wild. I mean, you went. You were location hopping, and now we have planet hopping. So it's. I mean, do you, as a filmmaker, do you prefer more budget or more creative freedom?
I mean, I really feel like I'm the luckiest guy, on earth, to be honest with you, because it's enough budget and it's a lot of freedom. Obviously, I'd like to scale up, but I think there's a point where it probably, there's a sweet spot. I'm not too far off from it. It's just, I've got 4 kids. So yes, would I like to get paid more? Of course. Yeah. Everybody would. But I do feel like you said, I'm just incredibly fortunate to be able to kind of do something new each time. That's why it doesn't feel like, oh, you've been making Skyline films for a decade, but it feels like I've made 3 completely different movies, 3 different genres. So I feel like, I could keep doing this because of that freedom. And thankfully I've been, had a lot of great partners that have been willing to go down these different roads and not like, no. Like, there was pressure in the beginning to just basically remake Skyline in a different city, just put someone in maybe they're instead of in a skyrise, they're in a bunker, and that's part 2. And I just was like dead set against kind of repeating myself. So even in this one, because the second one, had had a pretty good reception and got a lot of different fans, there's a little bit of an inkling of like, should we just make Beyond Skyline 2 now and just have it be like as bonkers as we can make it? And I still felt like I'd always had this like wanting to go to an alien planet movie. The first movie I ever got to work on was Aliens vs. Predator 2. And I really, had to immerse myself in that franchise for like 2 years. So I think I just always wanted to make a version of what I thought those movies should be.
So we could say that Skyline is a sort of non-franchise film.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And it's independent and yes, you can be more creative and.
But even like what I said, I just finished. Like the like no one said to me anything about the holograms. There was no pressure to do it. There was just one little piece of it that was like a polygonal kind of placeholder. So I just called directly to the artists. I talked directly to the DI people, and I just can go and put my hands around things and get it done. With a studio, that would have been like an email chain, a mile long about just a very simple decision. Just a very simple thing. So I don't know. Part of me, I just love. Like I said, I feel really fortunate to be able to have that freedom. But I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. It's okay. And so I think you had also this freedom in your casting, because you have, of course, Lindsay Morgan, but also Rona Mitra, James Cosmo, and Yayan Ruyan. So it's a sort of a very cult cast, I would say. Yeah. For genre lovers.
I definitely give my producer Matthew Chouse a ton of credit with the casting from Beyond. He came on in Beyond, and him and I hit it off right away. We had met on a previous project, but he wasn't involved with the first Skyline, so we hit it off right away. And he always. I would get very nervous about casting when you're in pre-production, and I'll be like, we need somebody, and he'll be like, calm down, wait. It's going to be fine. And it always seems to work out. The closer that we would get to the movie, things are easier to nail down. And yeah, he really pulled off a coup with Rona, Alexander, and James. Like those were all kind of like amazing gets for us that kind of came in at the last minute. For me, Lindsay was the person I championed to be in that role at the end of Beyond. So of course I wanted to build a movie around her, but you guys know from foreign sales and independent films, it's not just so simple to say, hey, this is a first time female lead. Let's make this big science fiction movie around her. So I do give a lot of credit to my financiers, foreign sales team, and Matthew for kind of taking that leap of faith and if you believe in her, we believe in her type of thing. And I think it really paid off because she definitely kind of has everything that you want for this, a female badass science fiction hero. She's like, I would always say, she's like she just looks like she was made in like a James Cameron movie mold. They just like cracked the mold open, and then like Lindsay walks out, and you're like, oh my god, she's like all of his heroes put into one. So yeah, that was definitely like a big coup, and then to have all these awesome genre actors, like the ones we mentioned. Also Daniel Bernhardt, who's kind of he's been that guy. Like he's awesome in the John Wick movies, awesome in the Matrix sequels. And when I saw him, I was like, he is just so perfect for this character. He's so perfect for the world. When he's walking along the ship or on an alien planet, you just absolutely believe that he's that guy. So he kind of was our martial arts like workhorse in this movie. He has a lot of different fights with a lot of different people and creatures, and he helped really kind of round out that cast.
So you mentioned James Cameron for the character of Rose. I mean, that it looks like you said correctly that it looks like she came out of one of James Cameron's movies, Mold. But I can say that there is maybe another mold that we have to keep in consideration. Maybe Neil Marshall.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
the first moment I saw Rona Mitra, I said, "Oh, Doomsday." Then when they entered the caves in Cobalt 1, you have the new breed, the mutants, and everything. It reminded me a lot about the Descent. So
That was definitely a touchstone. That's funny. You're the first person that mentioned the Descent, because I remember in the pitch we talked about that, because obviously, one of the great horror movies, creature movies of the last 20
yeah,
years.
yeah.
Um, yeah, there was. I mean, we talked to Rona about Doomsday, of course, and because there's a lot of discussion on her wardrobe in the movie. Um, it was not the third act wardrobe was like going too far, or what was the right mix. When she first did the camera test, there was a lot of like zippers on it, and I was like, it's kind of leaning towards fetish gear. We had to kind of strip it down and rough it up and kind of find the right balance. But she just looks so great in it that you can't really help yourself. You're like, you got to give her some type of leather badass jumpsuit.
Of course.
Of course, exactly.
Of course. Yeah. Max, your next question.
Yes,
Please stay within your 2 minutes, otherwise I will have to press the mute button.
I understood that reference.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 minutes. Okay. So yeah, besides the casting, I think from a yes, you created this universe of Skyline. Also, not only stepping from places to places or from planets to planets, but also from country to country in terms of a co-production structure. So every Skyline adventure, I would say, is a sort of a new discover of a country of co-production and possibilities in in Lithuania or in Spain in this case of Skyline. So tell me how you and Matthew build up this very interesting co-production structure, because the USA, UK, Lithuania, and Spain, it's quite unusual.
I would definitely, if we were on stage and Matthew were right next to me, I would turn and like drop this question at his feet. But it is interesting. I mean, he's one of the smartest people I've ever met about figuring that sort of stuff out. And for me on the creative side, I just like it because it makes each film have a different character, and you kind of bring in new collaborators that make things fresh, right? In the second movie, being in Indonesia totally changed the whole movie. It's like just by even scouting there is what led to the possibility that Iko and Yayan could be in the movie. And once they could be in the movie, then it was like, they want to add fights to the movie. They want to add fights to my movie? Okay, great. Let's add fights to the movie. That changed everything. And it also gave the movie just such a different texture. What was great about this one, we actually prepped the movie out of Belgium, and then we scouted Lithuania. We were going to do a bigger location shoot in Spain, in Gran Canaria, which we scouted. But it ended up just not being feasible for the budget. So we brought a bunch of Spanish crew in, that did costumes and creatures. They refurbished our creatures. Lena Mossum did the amazing spacesuits and all of the wardrobes. So what's so great about it for me is that it's not like people coming in and kind of punching a clock. They're like seeing it as an opportunity to kind of put their stamp on it. And they all took it so seriously, because I have like a funny relationship with these movies where like I love them and I'm passionate about them, but I also be like, I kind of, they're also kind of funny to me and they're fun. But when someone else is coming to it, they really, really dig in and kind of sink their teeth into the themes, and they want to make it as good as it can possibly be. And that pushes me to make it better and for me to kind of focus on stuff. So, yeah, Lithuania as a shooting location, I mean, it couldn't have really worked out better. We knew they had just done Chernobyl at these stages in that backlot. And so that gave us the confidence that they would be able to handle something of this size, because it's obviously a much bigger project. It's a much longer project. And it ended up being this huge bonus because they had all these tents and they had all these like Soviet, broken down set pieces and stuff all within the basement. So, I mean, a lot of the stuff in our spaceship, if it looks kind of Soviet to you, it's because it's repurposed Soviet stuff from Chernobyl that we kind of, just retrofitted and made the most of. I mean, that's kind of indie filmmaking at its finest. It's like whatever you guys have. And all those canvas tents were part of that set as well that we kind of repurposed and redid our own thing with. So, yeah, you kind of luck out. I mean, that same thing happened in Beyond Skyline, where there was like a standing sort of bunker set that we had grabbed and we redid ourselves. So, yeah, it has been a world, but it's always got a bit of luck with these things.
Well, but I mean, the whole crew. I mean, the chemistry between the crew, and I mean, with all the action and I mean, it works perfectly because I mean. They, as you said, they take everything seriously, but I mean, it also looks like, I mean, all the participants in the movie are having a lot of fun, because you can see the fun is from the viewer, but also you can see that the enthusiasm they put in the fights and there is not the, I mean.
No one's phoning it in. Yeah, I agree.
There is no sloppy attitude when, I mean, like, yeah, well, okay, I'm gonna be there. I mean, I just like the franchise, let's call it like this, because there is an authentic enthusiasm inside of it and about it. So.
Well,
and that brings me. I mean, let's keep the ending open. Apart from any eventual other Skyline 4 or Skyline, now that you put the 3 in the title, you have to come up with another.
For the 4, yeah.
Really, yeah, for the 4th.
That's not my fault. The movie's title is Skylines to me, and there was a copyright issue with the German TV show that took that name a year ago. So we had already filmed it and everything, and then they said, "Well, do you want to change the name?" And I said, "No, I don't want to change the name. No. The name's Skylines. It's an aliens tribute." And so then the only real option I had was putting the 3 in the E. So don't blame me.
No.
It's brilliant.
We won't hold it against you. Just one question. My question was, I mean, apart from an eventual Skyline 4-ish, what other plans do you have in mind? Are you writing other projects?
Yeah, there's a couple of different projects that Matthew are developing. And one is an Arctic set survival horror story that would be really fun to do next. It's one of those things where after you kind of take stock of what you've just done, which was make a movie on an alien planet, and like what would that skill set, kind of cross over to? And I had read this script before we made Skylines, and it was always something that was kind of in the back of my head. I think I'm horrified of the cold. I grew up in Massachusetts, outside of Boston, and I fled there, like 15 years ago. So there's something about like going back to face the cold on a movie that seems like something I eventually would love to do. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm always tinkering with another Skyline in the back of my head, especially when you're finishing one and people start asking. I do think. From where this movie ends, there's a really fun place that we could go, and it's just up to the audience whether or not we get to do it.
Yeah, but I think the audience, of course, this conversation goes after the screening, so we can spoil abundantly. And I think the audience, the audience probably in the end may ask, themselves, but what about Frank Grillo? What happened to him?
Where's Daddy?
So are they going to, to save him? Are they?
Yeah, I
So
mean,
that's probably,
that's exactly what I would like people to be wondering.
Yeah, it's a good question to push you to do the fourth.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
but he already told you that he's waiting for the money response.
Well,
So I would suggest, since you are still, I mean, if you want to add a crazy credit, okay, if you want to really see what happens to Frank Grillo, please donate to Kickstart Skyline 4.
No, just put my Venmo. Just pay me directly. Forget everybody else. That would be a crazy credit. Yeah, I mean, Frank and I still talk, and I talked to him about this movie and potentials of other ones. I wanted him to know that I didn't kill his character off, and we've talked about a possible fourth one. So without that getting online or anything before the movie's out, that's definitely would be something I'd like to do.
Max, can you ask a question? I have to grab something upstairs.
Yeah, of course. And okay. So let's get back to the to the plot of the film. To this world that is an hybrid world. And do you think that during the lockdown, we launched a very interesting format, I would say, that it's called Future World. There are conversations with, scientists, novelists, comic designers, and so on. But we try to imagine our future world. So, speaking about, Skyline, do you think that the hybridation is the future of our planet and of our world?
Wow. I do feel like the push towards more integration from all around the world is the right thing, is the right instinct. I don't know. Without getting too personal, obviously, that's kind of how I've been living my life, and that and I feel like part of that has been these movies in themselves, is that like getting to go to different places in the world and work with so many different people. I mean, the crews have been, especially for the past two, have been so international that it's like it just feels like that's the cure to a lot of the ills that are facing the Earth at the moment. So yeah, I guess hybridization is I'd fall into that camp. Yes.
See, I just to say, I'm not backslapping you. Double feature, Skyline and Beyond Skyline.
Is that a double feature Blu-ray? I'd never seen that.
Yeah, this is the German version, because right now I live in Austria. Okay. But I also have my two Skylines in Italy. Oh.
Wow. I had no idea. I had no idea I was with a real fan.
How do you make autographs in a virtual space? Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
So, how about the future?
I was one other thing you guys mentioned about the international crew, and I feel like I definitely should shout out the DP of this movie, because he's a French DP, Alain Duplantier, and it's just like, to me, he's the biggest change from the other movies to each one. I mean, obviously, each movie takes on the personality of its lead, but he just, I pushed him to make it as French looking as it could. He wanted to try to make it American looking, and I was like, no, make it French. Add more color, go crazier, and that's what I'm really, really proud of the look of this movie. and how it has a much more distinct kind of palette than not much more, but just distinct from each one. I like, again, just kind of having that creative freedom to do something a little different each time.
Yeah, and you know that the same the Alain Duplantier is also the DOP of the new Mathieu Turi movie Meander.
I know.
Yeah,
that
it's in your competition.
Well,
yeah.
As long as he wins, that's all I care about. It doesn't matter if it's my movie or the other one.
But it's fun, this French look in a French, because it's I think it's quite interesting, because sometimes you try to look what you can't be. Try to be this more American, more Star Wars style, but I think, especially for independent movies, this is probably the way to a lack of originality, authenticity.
Well, it's funny you say that, because we had to make those decisions in the VFX because, audiences, myself included, are so used to the ILM look of space. But the budget to do an ILM space is more than our entire movie. So it was like, okay, how do we create the look of what our space battles are going to be and what all this space travel is going to be, within our budget and schedule? And so it kind of leaning into this stylized look that feels a little bit more graphic novel, feels a little bit more French, kind of fits more with the rest of the movie's look, because that was mainly all of the space stuff was done by Lip Sync out of the UK, our main visual effects vendor. But it was really tricky. I mean, I feel like the first 2 or 3 months, we didn't even get any shots in because we were just trying to figure out what is this space look, and is the audience going to be able to deal with something that doesn't look like Star Trek or Star Wars. And so I'm really proud of where we ended up on it, because, like you said, it has its own look, it has its own thing, and it's a consistent look throughout all of the shots, a consistent quality, but it's not just slavishly trying to do what everyone else does.
And speaking of, visual styles and, a bit more French. So my question is, what were your models and influences when you stepped from the writing from writing to directing?
It's for each one, it's different, and I think for this movie, I didn't feel like there was I felt like the first movie I was very much trying to, or the first movie for me, Beyond Skyline, I was very much trying to grasp onto the Terminator 2 in my head for sort of a style. But in this one, I was kind of more focused within the scenes in the moment and not kind of gravitating towards something else. It was more like I would really absorb the set and block it out in my head. Every night before, I would write out these pretty elaborate kind of overhead plans of and retool the shot list and kind of cut it myself in my head each day. And so it was more sort of like maximizing the budget, maximizing what we had in front of camera. But I'd say the bigger kind of evolution for me, just on a craft-wise thing, was really working with Alain on the dolly, because he's such a great dolly operator. And so, a lot of Beyond Skyline was a lot of, my DP on that, Christopher Probst, is a really amazing handheld operator. And so a lot of it was very handheld, very steady cam. The camera was always blocking the action. And so Alain is way more dolly trained. And it kind of got me out of my comfort zone, but it allowed me to think about things differently and kind of check in more with the characters. There's a lot more close-ups in this movie. There's a lot more action shots, a lot more. Just by the nature of the story, it's a different story. It has a lot more quieter moments. I think it has a little bit more character moments. So that kind of, to me, was what pushed it into a different realm for me to think about it craft-wise. And when I said make it more French, it would be like he would send me a treated style reference that had like muted colors, and I was like, what is this? Like I push it, and so it'd come back, and he would have sort of a little bit more Blade Runner 2049, a lot of crazy yellows and purples and magenta, which like coming up for me, like in the early to mid 2000s, like magenta was like this dirty word in like American filmmaking. Like I remember being in the hydraulics bay, and they'd be like, the laser pointer would come out to magenta, to cyan, like it was always kind of more like solid, strong colors and really staying away from pinks. And I think that's part of just to me was kind of embracing more femininity in this movie, and not being afraid of pink and purple and magenta, and kind of embracing the full spectrum, if you will.
I don't know. It's time is.
Yes, it's quite 40 minutes, guys. That's really nice. It's
you
really
can cut
nice
this down, right? You don't have to have everybody consider.
No. It's. I mean, time flies by. I mean, I thought we were. So, we basically. If you have one question, any more questions?
I don't know. Pick up one question, Liam.
You want me to pick up?
Yeah.
One question?
Yeah.
Oh, I ask you guys a question about the movie, or
no? Ask yourself.
That is the laziest form of interviewing.
Yeah.
Make yourself a question.
Make yourself a question. Yes.
We call it the Marzullo style.
Yes, there is a very famous anchorman in Italy interviewing people at night in television. And he always asked people to make a question themselves, so it's really funny.
I guess the thing that I'm most curious about the movie is that it's like you said, we kind of do this big genre departure, and we're kind of asking people to buy into this bigger space adventure story. So that's really like the thing I'm most curious about, is people react to that. I feel like just by the nature of switching a lead from a Frank Grillo to a Lindsay Morgan, you're going to have different people that are going to be more or less excited about things. I think we're obviously going to be a lot more popular with younger females, and maybe older males would be like, well, what happened to the big tough guys, which I think we still have. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's like, just finished the movie. It's crazy. The trailer just came out yesterday. The premiere is Sunday night. So I'm going to learn a lot in the next week. But, I'm in this really nice place right now where I feel just a calming pride about the movie. I've kind of gotten over my grieving process of finishing it, which is about the week after you finish, you're a little sad. You can't just like protect your child anymore. You have to send them off into the world for everybody to bully them or love them. You don't really know. But yeah, I just hope people continue to embrace these films and kind of see, like you guys, what they are, which is the kind of these genre exercises in genre filmmaking, global genre filmmaking, where you can kind of embrace what inspires you and create something new for new people to kind of check out, and then hopefully they revisit some of the classics that inspired these movies afterwards.
So, I mean, well, now the baby is out, and okay. And
be nice to my baby.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to ask us. You have to ask to that pack of wolves that is the audience at Trieste Science Fiction Festival. They are ruthless. No. I mean,
they were very sweet last time.
I'm pretty sure that they're gonna love it as much as, if not more, that Beyond Skyline. I mean, I remember watching it, and I mean, there were roars of, from the audience. I mean, you just hit the right nerve.
That was the biggest screening that we had. I remember at the Opera House, right? It was just such a huge audience, such an amazing screen. I'll never really forget that. That was, once in a lifetime experience. I definitely feel bad for any first time filmmakers who have, busted their ass to get their film on the festival circuit and they're not there to enjoy it right now. But, I'm just very fortunate that I've got to kind of do it all in the past 10 years. And I just thank the festival audience, because I feel like they're the real lifeblood of this business. They're the ones keeping indie sci-fi alive. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for, kind words. And of course, we hope to, welcome you next year.
Yeah,
hoping that the world won't fall down in the meantime. I mean, yeah,
that'd be fantastic. Thank you.
The sky won't fall down or not.
The sky won't fall.
The sky.
I think that's the title for part 4. You just gave it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Skyfall. Yeah, Skyfall. Why not? No,
Sky
4. Sky 4.
Sky 4.
How's that? Sky 4. Liam,
Skyline.
It's been a real hoot having you.
Sure.
Max, thank you. Liam, thank you.
Thank you, Lorenzo.
And
thank you,
I
Liam.
Think it's time for me to go and feed the cats.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys have a great day. Have a great weekend.
Thank you so much, Liam.
Anytime.
Oh,
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. See you soon.